What would you do if your best friend stole the business idea you'd spent 2 years developing and passed it off as her own? Sarah was about to find out she had more power than she realized. For 23 years, since first grade, Sarah and Emma had been inseparable, the kind of friends who finished each other's sentences and celebrated every milestone together. Sarah had been working on an app called Connect Local that would revolutionize how small businesses networked in their communities. She'd shared everything with Emma, every feature, every pitch point, every investor contact, because that's what best friends did. Emma had seemed genuinely excited, offering feedback and encouragement during their weekly coffee meetings. Then came the day that changed everything. Sarah was scrolling through her LinkedIn feed when she saw the announcement. Emma had just secured $300,000 in seed funding from Marcus Chen, the exact investor Sarah had been courting for months. The product Emma was launching? Connect Hub, Sarah's idea with a slightly different name. Sarah's hands trembled as she read Emma's post thanking her team for believing in her vision. There was no mention of Sarah anywhere. Years of friendship, countless nights of planning sessions, all erased as if Sarah had never existed. She called Emma immediately, her voice shaking with confusion and hurt. Emma's response was cold and calculated in a way Sarah had never heard before. "Business is business, Sarah," she said flatly. "You were taking too long to execute, and Marcus needed someone who could move fast. I saw an opportunity and took it." The line went dead before Sarah could respond. For 3 days, Sarah barely left her apartment. The betrayal cut deeper than any romantic breakup. This was someone who knew her family, who'd been her maid of honor at her sister's wedding, who'd held her hand through her father's funeral. But on the 4th day, something shifted. Sarah stopped crying and started thinking strategically. Sarah realized she had one crucial advantage. She knew Emma better than anyone. Emma was brilliant at presentation and charm, but she'd never been good at follow-through or handling technical challenges. She'd always relied on Sarah to problem-solve the hard stuff. Without that support, how long could Emma really maintain the facade? Sarah reached out to her old college roommate David, a talented developer she'd originally planned to bring onto her team. She explained everything: the theft, the betrayal, the stolen pitch. David was furious on her behalf, but agreed to help her build the real version of Connect Local, the version with all the features Emma didn't truly understand. Meanwhile, Sarah did something Emma would never expect. She congratulated her publicly. She commented on Emma's LinkedIn post with enthusiastic emojis and supportive words, playing the role of the gracious friend who was so proud. Emma, relieved that Sarah wasn't making waves, actually responded with gratitude. The trap was being set. Over the next 2 months, Sarah watched from a distance as Emma's venture began to crumble. Through mutual contacts in the startup community, she heard whispers: technical problems, missed deadlines, a demo that had crashed spectacularly in front of potential clients. Emma was drowning, and she had no one to turn to for the real technical expertise she needed. Then came the retention trap, the moment Sarah had been waiting for. Emma reached out with a desperate text. "I know I messed up. I'm in over my head. Marcus is threatening to pull funding. Can we talk? I need help." Sarah stared at the message for a long moment. The person who'd stabbed her in the back was now begging for the knife to be removed. Sarah agreed to meet, but not to help Emma save the stolen venture. She arrived at their old coffee shop with her laptop and a calm smile. Emma looked exhausted, her usual polished appearance replaced with dark circles and anxiety. "Thank you for coming," Emma said, reaching across the table. Sarah pulled her hand back. "I'm not here to save your version," Sarah said quietly. "I'm here to show you what you actually stole." She turned her laptop around, revealing Connect Local, fully functional, beautifully designed, already being beta tested by 50 local businesses who loved it. Emma's face went pale as she realized what she was seeing. Sarah explained that she'd been documenting everything from the beginning: time-stamped files, email chains, development notes, all proving she was the original creator. She'd also been quietly networking with other investors, and unlike Emma, she could actually answer technical questions about how the platform worked. She had meetings lined up with 3 venture capital firms next week. "Marcus is pulling your funding because you can't deliver what you promised," Sarah continued. "You sold him my vision, but you don't have my skills to execute it. You never did the hard work, Emma. You just wanted the glory." The words hung in the air between them, 23 years of friendship reduced to this moment of absolute truth. Emma tried to apologize, tears streaming down her face, saying she'd been jealous of Sarah's talent and scared she'd be left behind. But Sarah had moved past anger into something colder: clarity. "You made your choice when you stole from me," Sarah said. "Now live with the consequences. I'm not going to expose you publicly, but I'm also not going to let you ride on my work ever again." 1 week later, Sarah signed a deal with a different investor for $450,000, $150,000 more than Emma had received. Her pitch was flawless, because unlike Emma, she knew every single aspect of her own creation. The investor specifically mentioned that her technical knowledge and authentic passion set her apart from other founders he'd met recently. Connect Local launched 3 months later, to genuine excitement from the small business community. Sarah's app did everything she'd originally envisioned, with none of the technical failures that had plagued Emma's knockoff version. Reviews praised its intuitive design and reliable functionality, the fruit of real expertise rather than stolen ideas. Emma's Connect Hub quietly folded 6 weeks after Sarah's launch, unable to compete and unable to deliver on its promises. Marcus Chen actually reached out to Sarah afterward, apologizing for not doing better due diligence and admitting that Emma had clearly misrepresented her role in the concept's development. He asked if there were any hard feelings. Sarah told Marcus she appreciated the acknowledgement but had moved on. She had no interest in dwelling on Emma's failure. She was too busy building her own success. The best revenge wasn't destroying Emma's reputation or exposing her publicly. It was simply being so undeniably excellent that the truth became obvious to everyone who mattered. Sarah never spoke to Emma again, and she was surprisingly okay with that. The friendship she'd mourned had probably been one-sided for longer than she'd wanted to admit. Real friends don't steal your dreams when you're vulnerable. They celebrate them. Sometimes the person you need to cut out of your life is the one you'd never imagine losing. A year later, Connect Local had expanded to 12 cities and employed a team of 15 people. Sarah had been featured in a tech publication as an entrepreneur to watch. She kept the article that mentioned her starting from scratch after a setback, a polite way of describing betrayal. That setback had taught her who she could trust and how strong she really was. The lesson Sarah carried forward was simple but powerful. People can steal your ideas, your contacts, even your opportunities, but they can't steal your competence, your work ethic, or your ability to create something new. Those things live inside you, and they're the only things that truly matter. Emma learned that borrowed glory fades fast when you can't back it up with substance. Sarah sometimes wondered if Emma had learned anything from her spectacular failure, but she didn't wonder long enough to actually care. She was too busy building the career and company she'd always envisioned, surrounded by people who valued integrity as much as innovation. Her success wasn't despite the betrayal. In some strange way, it was sharpened by it. So here's the question for you. Have you ever had someone steal credit for your work? How did you handle it? And what would you do differently now?